Welcome to the School of Public Policy Commencement Exercises for Winter 2020. I'm Robert Orr, Dean of the school, and it is my great privilege to celebrate this milestone with you, your family, and your friends. Dear graduates, these are most certainly not normal times. Your hours spent in classes with friends and professors happened online. Your club meetings and social events and catch-ups happened on Zoom. And now this too, our celebration of your accomplishments, is virtual. Yet the importance of this moment is in no way diminished by the situation we are in, but rather highlighted by it. President Teddy Roosevelt said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." You have proven your ability to do just that. Like true policy Terps, you have risen to the challenge of our new reality through resilience, creativity, perseverance, and yes, optimism. You are not waiting to make a difference. You already have, and you continue to do so. As your dean, I could not be prouder of the difference that all of you have made. At the same time, I am deeply humbled by the resilience, determination, and leadership you have demonstrated in these challenging times. For several years, I have reflected in my commencement remarks that our graduates enter a world and a field quite different from the one that existed when they walked through our doors for the first time. Such a reflection does not begin to capture where we find ourselves today. In the last year, we have witnessed a public health crisis sweep across the globe, followed by an economic crisis, and exacerbated by a governance crisis. Those we love have fallen ill or lost jobs. We have been unable to gather to share milestones with family and friends, and post-graduation plans have been disrupted. And while the world has been battling the COVID-19 pandemic for a year, here in the US, we have just started to reckon with another pandemic that has ravaged this country for centuries. The crisis of systemic racial injustice has long been raised up as a fracture at the very foundation of this nation, but has seldom been acted upon with the urgency and boldness it requires. It is clearly a crisis of policy, with policy action and inaction creating structural inequities and propagating their impact. It is a crisis that calls upon us as policy practitioners and scholars to act. As you take your next steps, wherever you may find yourself, recognize that you have the ability and the responsibility to influence how policy impacts those who have been least represented and served by it. Above all, this moment facing twin pandemics demonstrates the fundamental need for good policy, good governance, and good people committed to serving the public good. Our collective challenge is to counter the forces that disparage expertise, dismiss information, distract from addressing structural racism and inequality throughout society, and deride the notion that our problems are solvable. We have many people, especially those of you graduating today, ready to take up this challenge. We have public servants, bridge builders, ethical and humble people, innovators, bold thinkers, collaborators, and believers who see what the world can and should be, and who are working unceasingly toward that better world. Thank you, graduates, for the inspiration you provide. The world needs your commitment to serving the public good now more than ever. It needs your expertise and skills, and most importantly, it needs the spirit and empathy that ignited your desire to make a difference in the world in the first place. The School of Public Policy will always be a place you can call home, and I sincerely look forward to the day, soon on the horizon, when we can join together again in person. Congratulations, class of 2020.
Congratulations, graduates. My name is Kiran Sripada, and I'm a current PhD student at the School of Public Policy. As we celebrate your amazing accomplishment, I wanted to let you know that we in the public policy community not only appreciate and recognize all your hard work, but also look forward to working with all of you as you serve the community and the country. This is a huge accomplishment under normal circumstances, but is even more impressive given the difficulties all of you have had to face due to the pandemic. Whether adapting to remote learning, a new type of university experience, or quickly adjusting to the new perspectives and priorities, you've taken the unique challenges of 2020 and overcome them with great courage and character. To serve is to put your education into action, to take it from the classroom to the legislatures, and to take it from a book or article to the people. Public policy cannot exist in a vacuum. The ultimate beneficiaries from good public policies are the people you serve, and that should always remain a priority as you embark on your promising paths. It's easy to get into conversations about theory, and it's important. But as you go out and try to turn those theories into solutions for our current problems, make sure that you remember that your solutions affect real people, families, frontline healthcare workers, people who go to work in small businesses and in corporate America, and people who are just looking for a tomorrow that is better than today. This also means that we should all accept that the public policy community must work together with politics. Oftentimes, we in the public policy world want to pretend that we're a little removed from politics and that we can remain above the fray by diving deep into the weeds. We should remember that politics is how we, the people, tell those in charge what we want to see. It's how we make sure that our government reflects our concerns. It's how we make sure society continues to form in a shape that best reflects and empowers us. And it's how we make sure that people hear all our struggles and our triumphs. Policy must work together with politics, and politics must do a better job of reflecting responsible policy if we want people to trust government again. It is up to us as policy professionals to make sure that we build that bridge between people and policy and between policy and politics. I didn't come to these conclusions overnight. I took many years and obstacles to learn some of these lessons. I started my career in banking, yes, lured in by that paycheck, but went unfulfilled due to the lack of clear purpose or to a higher ideal. I also found it difficult to focus solely on the next quarter, something of key importance in the private sector, versus a longer 5 or 10-year strategic outlook. However, one thing I was able to do was hone my understanding of corporate and financial economics and the role of corporate America in our society. Seeking something more, I became a teacher and eventually started my own company to help people get into college and graduate school. Watching someone get an A on an exam, do well on a standardized test, or get into the undergraduate or graduate program of their dreams was an amazing feeling. The work also gave me the ability to work with students and families from across the socioeconomic spectrum and reaffirm my belief in education as a key equalizer in our society. I likely would have continued in this field had the 2010 elections not been so bitter. Watching the pure rancor of the parties woke me up to the idea that if I didn't get more involved, I would likely watch the dreams of my future students, of my own company, and the prospect of an optimistic future disappear because of a lack of responsible policy. I made the decision right after those elections to pursue a master's in the public policy arena and become a civil servant. I began my career in government at the Government Accountability Office and worked directly for the federal government or as a federal consultant until 2019. I worked on improving programs at many different executive agencies and across many different issue areas, from defense to education to agriculture, from national security to healthcare to budgeting and everything in between. The fact-based approach to responsible policy that could have a positive effect on the country was not just rewarding, but exciting. Knowing that I did and am still going to do my part to have a positive impact and to be able to use my academic training is something that many people don't experience. I got to see and be a part of how policies were formed, how we could influence them, and how they affected people's lives. However, something was still missing, and that was the political will to push responsible policy over political rhetoric. After many years in the civil service, I decided it was time for my next endeavor, and that was to bring together the policy world with the political world by running for office. Running for the US Congress here in Tennessee was both daunting and exciting. The district I ran in covered 19 counties across hundreds of miles and contained everything from country music stars to defunct manufacturing communities. When the opioid epidemic hit, many of my neighboring counties were hit hardest. When economic initiatives such as tariffs were implemented, it was the soybean farms near me that saw the market drop off. When healthcare or nutrition talks were stalled, I watched as hundreds of thousands of my neighbors went without health insurance, and 20% of my state, including many children, worried about having food the next day. These problems are not just political problems, but ones that required a solution to gridlock, a return to talking about solutions and not about political parties and petty wins. That is what I hope to do through my run. And while we did better than anyone had before against an incumbent, we still fell short. However, I take great pride in knowing that we forwarded important conversations. We showed people that there was a better way to do things, and we motivated more people to be civically engaged than ever before. Through everything I've done, I've always considered myself a public servant, someone who wanted to work to better our society. I always made sure that I brought all of me and my experiences to the table and prioritized public service as the goal. I ask that each of you bring a little of that to your own work. Public service does not always mean working for a government, but it does mean having a focus on people. Whatever your political philosophies or leanings, good policy professionals work diligently to make sure that the people are served best. I also ask that you understand that public policy is a constant learning process and a field in which you cannot stay still. We must always learn from mistakes, we must build on victories, and we must bring people and concerns together and make sure that our solutions and work evolve with the times and address the new problems that emerge. This means that we must continue to learn, whether in school or not, and make sure that we evolve as individuals. If you sit and try to plan a right time to be impactful, you'll never actually get to that right time. The time to act is always now. Whether you're interested in domestic or foreign policy, social issues or defense issues, the arts, the humanities, or the natural sciences, the time to get involved is now. And I have no doubt that all of you will make your voices heard loudly and clearly as you go out into the policy world. I am proud to count you as fellow Terps, fellow graduates of the School of Public Policy, and as fellow policy professionals. Good luck to all of you, and congratulations.
Hello, and congratulations to the Winter 2020 Public Policy graduating class. My name is Sterling Prudencio, and I am your student speaker. My time as a public policy student has allowed me to open my mind to whole new ways of thinking. I stand here today as a transfer student from Anne Arundel Community College, a 2.5-year student employee of this campus, shout out to Mulligan's and to Epley Recreation Center, and I stand here as a member of the Dean's Student Advisory Council of Public Policy. All of these experiences and all of my knowledge have brought me here today. Today is a day for celebration of all of our accomplishments, but this is also a great time for introspection. This semester has not been easy upon the souls of students and staff. We are existing within a time of great stress and grief. Normal education practices are not as easy to work with, and we find ourselves in constant adjustment. Learning is not the same as it once was before. For some, this has been our hardest semester yet, myself included. Loss, compromise, and tragedy have followed many people throughout this semester. After all of this hardship, it has shown us that our experiences and our expectations should change, and how everyone deserves grace during these hard times, including yourself, especially yourself. Through everything, we have gained a different perspective on how to operate. These perspectives do not need to apply to just our careers and our futures, but how we can solve problems in our everyday. There are no shortages of hardships for us to explore and for us to conquer. The COVID-19 pandemic is still with us today, with approximately 15 million people within the United States infected and 282,000 people dead. We are still looking for financial aid and guidance from our leaders. We are still fighting to end the social injustices, inequalities that are products of the systemic racism of this country and of the world. We are continuing to live through the largest civil rights movement ever. We have just witnessed one of the most important and controversial elections in history with record voter turnout. There have been protests, arguments, and tears shed over everything I just mentioned, and that is just a drop in the bucket. There is no fairness in stating that the hardships that one has faced makes one stronger. That narrative is destructive, it is misleading, and it is absent of nuance. What can be said is that there is much to learn. The strength that you develop is based upon your own accord and your own perspectives. If anything, the past few months have forced people to evaluate their own perspectives and what makes them strong. Our strength is not defined by the hardships that we face, but the choices we continue to make. You are in control of your future in ways that you may have never thought of. What you learn, what you preach, what you choose to understand, what you choose to involve yourself with, what you choose to fight for, what you choose to let go of, what you determine is right for your ultimate well-being. These are all aspects of the control that you have. Our time as public policy students has given us a plethora of experiences and knowledge that we can forever use to build a career. But no one can teach us to change the world. That comes from within. I leave you today with this plea. I urge you to use your knowledge and your experiences to the best of your ability. Exist and operate within your own confined boxes to optimize your own success. Tear down the walls, make new boxes, get rid of them altogether. Create a new way of thinking, a new way of operating, a new future that directly combats poverty, structural racism, sexism, classism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, environmental destruction, and the erasure of experiences. We have that power because we are strong. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Sterling, and thank you, Kieran. You both give us great hope for the future. And congratulations, class of 2020.